SIGGRAPH Day 3. Hi everyone, it's Francis. The day was mostly spent on AWS panel. Is Amazon Web Services? Did I get that right? I'll double check. There was one production session which was Batman. Today was a nice change of pace because it was covering more of the human side of the workplace, so it's not as technical as the other days. It's more how do you build a happy life at work? At the end, I'll share 6 tips that the panelists have shared in building and maintaining a strong culture. The first panel that we went to was the AWS Infrastructure. But that's all I have to say. It was actually way over my head. I think it was a lot of pipeline stuff. That's all I got. And then the second panel that we went to was Innovating for the Artist Experience. Their tips in innovating the artist life: proper tools, proper onboarding, looking after the artist, making sure that they are having fun, having access to the cloud for their renders. So this panel, I wouldn't say it was very innovative, mainly because these are things that we already know. These are areas that we always needed to make sure that everyone feels supported. So in that sense, I was expecting a little more. Maybe with everyone working from home, highlighted the importance of having proper tools, proper onboarding, proper resources and support for artists and everyone. These are not new. And then I went to check out the production session for the Batman. So this was presented by Weta. It was kind of funny going through it because you can't really see anything. Everything was so dark. So that was kind of funny. I was like, oh, I'm sure it looks great if we can see it. There were some cool processes there that they shared. I wouldn't go into much detail in this video. If you want to see my notes, they are posted in my blog and there's a link down below. There's a process called detuning and making a shot look imperfect on purpose. Because there's not enough time to animate a digidouble, they actually had to animate in 2D in comp to make the stunt double look like Rob. They also covered the rain effects they did. So apparently rain does not look convincing without oscillation. So they had a whole breakdown that every single raindrop basically changed shape, and that's how you get an effect of when the light hit the droplets of rain. It looks like it goes on and off, but if you don't get that right, the shot will look weird and something just looks off. So they went to a lot of work just to get the rain looking just right, and then making everything dark. There's a lot of cars in the background. So they had built what they call a clown car, which is just one car asset that is rigged to blend shape, reshaping the same car asset to different types of cars. So that was pretty cool. And one of my favorite parts of the day was a panel which was Love, Death, and Tim Miller, owner of Blur, and he's known for Deadpool and Love, Death, and Robots. Tim was actually joined by Gretchen Livy, who is the face of production, on how Tim started Blur, how he's seen the industry change, how they met. I found their panel very down to earth and pretty funny actually, and he's very charismatic. It was like watching people, just catch up at a cafe. It doesn't feel scripted in a sense, and it felt natural. You can see that this is an owner of a studio who has a great understanding of the pipeline. So it's not just someone who, will ask all these requests without understanding how much work that actually requires. Some of the software that they were interested in was Nimble Studio, Unreal, Midjourney, Sketch, machine learning, and Unity. Virtual production was also one. Almost everyone was talking about it. Tim shared another perspective with Unreal, which was because Unreal lets you have access to all these different disciplines in just one program. It opens an opportunity to getting more generalists in the artist pool. They really handpick the content that they want to produce, and although a script could be edgy, at the end of the day, our job is to entertain. It's not just there for content, for the sake of content. At some point, a VFX supervisor that I previously worked with actually ended up sitting behind me, so I said hi. So that's the thing with SIGGRAPH too, is that you end up running into so many people that you used to work with. What's even cooler is seeing them on the panels. The industry is big and yet kind of not. So another panel that we went to was presented by Pixomondo. It's a general showcase of their virtual production of Star Trek and beyond. They also use AWS for cloud and storage. And the next one was empowering artists. This was another one where I had expected more than what was shared. I think my only takeaway from that talk was Praymaker sounds like a pretty rad place. So if you're interested, they're in New York City. They do commercials, really funny commercials. One of the fun things that Praymaker does is when they get into a virtual call, they get into metaverse. So their call was their faces were in these astronaut helmet thingies and you're in Mars. At 3:30, they have a cup of tea. What it is everyone goes in, it's virtual, and your cup of tea, a casual chat, but there is one rule, and that rule is to not talk about work. The next panel was actually my favorite for the day, which was building and maintaining a strong culture while hiring artists globally. This one I thought was a very interesting talk because this is our new normal. We're not in the office anymore. What are the struggles? How do you work around that? And what are the solutions? Where do we see this industry going in maintaining this? Oh, hello, cat. You wanna be in the video, Iro? I was very interested in this topic because this is our new normal, right? Not everyone is in the same vicinity anymore. Everyone has some sort of work from home arrangement. Before, when we were all back in the studio, you'd run into someone in the hallway or in the kitchen. It's like, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while. It's one of those small things that I did miss when we all started working from home. Another idea that Praymaker had brought up, the work from home setup is a form of trust, you know? Like there is always this if you don't see someone actually working, are they actually working? Along with trust is empathy. You don't know what's going on the other side. There's only so much you see in this box. Some of the issues they noticed in this work from home setup, too many forms of communication. Mentoring and onboarding was a challenge for the new hires, where this is their first gig in the industry. It's sometimes intimidating for them to set up calls with people who are senior to them if they have questions. In some studios, they actually do set up new artists to be right beside someone who's more senior, so that if they have questions, it's very easy to tap someone on the shoulder, hey, can you help me with this? And that's something that you lose. You lose this way of learning. Being in the studio physically, you see something on their screen, you could ask like, oh, how did you do that? And you learn from them just right on the spot. But with everyone working from home, you lose that kind of connection. That could be intimidating to someone who's new. They're more inclined to just sit in their bubble because they don't want to ask or they want to bother. One of the solutions that they had brought up is that they have an open Zoom call, which is there's no agenda, you just sit in there, you can continue working if you want to, but if you have any questions, you could like, hey, I have a question, does anyone know how to do this? And someone could like, oh, I know that, and then let's hop on a separate call. Also, another solution was to invest in onboarding, in technical training and skill improvement. Like I said earlier in the video, I think these are topics that are not new. It's just highlighted in the work from home situation because now you have no choice. You cannot ignore it. You have to do this. And it goes a long way in setting up for success at the beginning. All right, so what are the 6 tips that they shared in building a strong culture? Number 1 from Praymaker, which was the art of simplicity. If you're making something too complicated, you're doing it wrong. Find ways to simplify what you're trying to, let's say, train someone with, right? If you go too many steps all in one go, you're gonna lose them. Number 2 is from Bardell, and I'm paraphrasing here. Anything can be done technically, but you have to communicate it well. So this idea of we could have anything we want, But you have to make sure that everyone involved is communicating well, understanding what it is that we're trying to do and how much work that actually entails. Number 3 is listening to other people's view. You need to be able to communicate despite having a difference in opinion. Number 4 was timing is key, and this one was also from Bardell, which is there could be changes that would make workflows better, but if you're trying to do this on a project that's about to end, no one's gonna listen. Even if it makes the work easier, if it's about to end anyway, no one's gonna do it. So timing is key. Major changes that you want to see, it's probably more ideal to do it on a project that's about to start, then they're a lot more open on streamlining processes and changes to the workflow. Number 5, I can't remember if this was from Important Looking Pirates or Praymaker. Don't be afraid to break it. Be okay if things don't go well. It's part of the learning process. If you don't break it, how are you gonna know how to make it better? And the last one is to encourage calls, tying back to one of the points they had brought up earlier. For new staff joining a project or a studio, it's hard to build that rapport with people you're working with if you're new and you don't know them. So when you have questions, it's harder to reach out and say, hey, I need help. The more we can encourage everyone to communicate, the stronger your team will be, because they could rely on each other, they can learn from each other, and I think in that way you are building a culture of trust. It was an interesting day covering more of the soft skills and, like I said, the human part of the work environment. And what was interesting was that these topics were not new. It has always been there, and I think now left with no choice but to address them and actually do invest in them. If you want to see the last day of SIGGRAPH, when we explore more of the exhibition hall, learning more about which schools offer production-centered courses, where I went to every single booth and ask them their take on teaching production. Check out my next video, which is day 4 of SIGGRAPH. If you like this video, if you learned something new, please do like, share, or subscribe. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Bye!